like we said in our last video, we're pretty much out of hay at the down with the sheep, so we got to load up a little trailer and start bringing some down. It'll probably take us about 3 or 4 loads total to get down. We'll get like 4 or 5 per load, but that should last us, you know, they're going through about a bale a day, so ideally we need 30 bales for a month. Hopefully we can get 3 weeks to a month down there today, and then we'll be all set for the rest of January and part of February. You know, ideally, I guess you'd have a big enough barn to have your hay and all your animals in one space, but it's not what we had here. We had a lot of little outbuildings, which we like as well because they're very easy to maintain. You don't really need these huge barns like New England style barns that they used to have. There's so much to maintain and they're very costly. You don't need those. So a lot of little outbuildings you can do a lot with, but it just means that we got to store our hay in one building and then bring it down to where the sheep are. Hence, it's nice to have them all close together. Kind of lucked out a little bit today with the weather, so it's nice and warm. When I say warm, it's in the high 30s right now, which is nice. Makes moving all the hay a little bit easier. Like people say, you hear people saying all the time, it's like Earth's gym, and it is. It just keeps you moving, keeps you physically active, especially in the winter time, to be able to get outside and do stuff. It's enjoyable when it's not super cold. And it makes you appreciate how hard people had to work before gas-powered motors, and just even the little distance we have here, instead of using the little tractor having to carry everything, makes it a lot easier. If it was snow on the ground and we had a decent amount of snow like a lot of our winters, we just use a sled and take probably 4 bales at a time on a sled and drag them down and through the snow. But for now we can do it this way, which is nice. So we're bringing in about 20 bales total to put in here. That should last them about 20 days because they're going through, with the 6 sheep we have, about a bale a day is on average what they're going through and eating. So that should last them through the end of January, which is good. You can see, but they're all in here eating the hay. Heads deep buried. They're actually enjoying this hay a lot. Probably more than last year. Last year we got first cutting. This year this is probably more like second cutting. It was pretty wet, A7. This summer we had a very wet summer. So instead of us getting our hay in July, which was first cutting, a lot of the farmers had to wait, and to get organic second cutting hay up where we are is very difficult. So it was nice because he ended up cutting later than he would have normally, and got an extra and stuff, and felt like he was going to get a second, maybe even a third cutting, which allowed us to get a little bit better quality. They ate the stuff last year. It was fine for them. They put weight on, and especially their first year, they did extremely well. But I think they're enjoying this better. but that's just coming from me and what I'm watching. They might have enjoyed the first cutting better, but it seems like they're enjoying this better. I'm Big Boy. There's the ram again, that's Big Boy. Again, he's getting better at letting us, he'll sniff us, and he's not so spooked, but he won't let us really come in and pet him like these girls will. We had them from when they were very young, just after they were weaned, their first year on, so they got handled a lot and got really used to us. Come on up and we'll take a look after taking out those 20 bales, how much hay we have left and kind of how we're storing it right now. For the winter, we had purchased 150 bales of organic hay and put it inside the small barn here. Come on in. I don't know if you'll be able to see or not, and it's not super bright in here, but this is kind of how we did it. And we had it stacked all the way out to about here to begin with for the winter. It looks like we've gone through about half of the hay, taking those 20 bales out, a little less than half the hay. So considering that we still have to feed out after this, February and March, and probably a little bit of April, we should be close, but I think we're going to end up making it. And again, ideally, most of our hay storage will be out in the new little overhang addition that we built onto this barn. And what I'm going to try to do is this area here where you see a window is kind of cut that out and make a door in there so that it's easy for us to come in here and go right out, especially in the winter. Some of the winters this year hasn't been so much snow, but some winters we get a decent amount of snow and will make it a lot easier getting out for the winter chicken coop. But the good news is it looks like we're going to have enough hay, at least for most of the time that we need. Worst case, if we have to go buy a little bit more, we can. Hopefully that one's big enough. So as you can hear, the generators are running again. We lost power this morning. We had another good windstorm. Our son-in-law is running his generator so that he can get a little bit of work done. We're out here, we're going to be taking down these tomato trellises where it's a relatively warm day because we want to put one of our silage tarps out. We're going to put it out in this area headed down in that direction of the field because ideally we're hoping this year we'll be able to put up a little bit of a high tunnel. Like I said, we had salvaged a carport from someone that was getting rid of it on the side of the road, and we took it and have stored it away, and it's time to see if we can put it up into a high tunnel. And ideally that would be a great spot because it would get sun most of the day. But first we got to move this so that we can put the tarp out and extend the roads this way a little bit as well. So I love tomato vines. So ideally, in the spring when we're ready to start turning this into beds and putting the hoop house or greenhouse on it, the grass will be killed off and all that nitrogen and everything will be put back into the soil and make a good growing space for us. It's what we've done in the rest of these beds that you can see all along here. We basically put a tarp down, then we broad forked them, and then basically made the rows and put some cardboard and wood chips down for the walkways. But hopefully this will be ready at some point in the spring and we can start working on that project.
Today I'm going to render some lard. We ran out of lard, which we use quite often for cooking oil. So I took out a couple packs from the freezer. I'm going to go ahead and chunk it up. I'm using a very sharp knife. It's actually a fillet knife for fish. Because usually, I have to remove the skin. Which you can see on this side. So this knife, you have to be very careful with. If I start on one side, usually I can get under the skin if I pull it away. Here's the skin. Here it's really clean. There's not a lot of meat on this. But on the top you can see there's meat. Try to avoid getting as much meat in as I can. So just change the flavor a little. This is back fat. This is not leaf lard. Leaf lard is what's found around the pig's kidneys. It's considered very clean fat, meaning there's no meat like you can see on this piece here. So the flavor will be just cleaner. A lot of people will use it for making crusts, pastry. I've actually never used it that way. We use it, we love it in like cooking potatoes, really anything savory. It's our fat of choice when cooking, when we can produce it here on the land, but also we just like the flavor. So I'm just going to try to take off the meat, and I might chunk this up. No, I will chunk this up and give it to the chickens. I'm not going to waste it. So one beautiful thing about processing your own animals is that when whether you have someone else break it down or you do it, you get all this fat as long as you tell the processor that you want it. So this is the back fat, like I said, and depending on how fatty your pig is, you can get quite a bit of fat for your cooking. So you really shouldn't have to buy a whole lot. I mean, we don't use this in salad dressings or anything like that. We purchase olive oil for that. We do use avocado oil, and we make schmaltz from our chicken fat when we process our chickens. I like that for cooking rice. What else we use? We do use coconut oil, which clearly does not come anywhere from New England, but I do like it for certain applications. Yeah, so that's avocado oil, same idea, but it's kind of flavorless, so I like using it for mayonnaise. But lard is for cooking, definitely our favorite. Doesn't become rancid when cooking, and take high heat without changing which is really important for your health. So now I'm just chunking this up. I have tried putting this fat in partially frozen and put through my, just a little meat grinder I have. It just attaches to my KitchenAid mixer. But that became really, truthfully, a disaster. It didn't work well, so you need a good grinder, I think, to do that. I have good luck with this. I hear the more you break it down, the better off you are, but I just put this in a slow cooker and add water so it doesn't burn. The water will just evaporate off. And then set it on low and just keep checking in with it. And then I scoop off, and I'll show you this process as I go. I scoop off the already liquefied fat, strain it, and then let it cool. And it becomes really this beautiful white fat that's scoopable from a jar, and we just keep it in the fridge, one jar at a time, and then the rest go in the freezer. You'll have nice silky smooth hands when you're done with this. This is getting really oily. I'm actually hoping that it goes into my butcher block a little bit. It's looking like it needs to be oiled. Right. Now I'm going to get some water. I'm going to add 2 to 3 cups. That was about 1.5 cups. I'm just going to plug it in. If I can find a spot, maybe right over here. Just high for a little bit just to get it going. Keep it covered, and it will steam out this hole, so it will lose that water over time. And as it gets going, I might take the top off too, but it takes a little while to get to temp. So I usually start on high and then turn it down low, and then we'll come back and check on it. And so it's been actually a couple hours now, and it's still on high, and I can hear it boiling, and the fat is starting to get soft and just starting to break down. Because they're larger cubes, it does take much longer, but if you're home and you just can stir it every once in a while, it doesn't really matter. So I'm going to let it continue. I'm going to leave the lid off now just so the water can start evaporating out some. And check back in a while. So it's been over 4 hours now. You can see how much fat now has been rendered, but it's going to keep going. It's quite a bit left in here. Again, slow and slow, but I just keep stirring it so it doesn't stick. It does start to stick, but I just loosen it a little and don't worry about it too much. So the lard has been rendering down all day, and it's time to start scooping out some of the liquid fat. I like to use a funnel. I always use glass jars. I don't want to put hot liquid into plastic, so I'm not leaching anything from the plastic into my food. And then I'm just going to put a strainer just to hold this cheesecloth in place. And start ladling. Right now, the liquid looks golden, but what I find as it cools, it turns white. So I'm going to go and plug this back in just for a little while and see if I can render a bit more. At this point, this is starting to turn a little crispy. So I'm thinking there's probably not too much more, but I always want to make sure I can get all the bits. It's been a few days since we finished rendering the lard, and I forgot to update you on the final product. So we ended up with 4.5 jars of lard, and we've already used up the half jar. And these are going to go into, actually 3 will go into the freezer and 1 will go into the fridge for using right away. And that's it. It's really simple, done in a crock pot. Just go by and stir it every once in a while, and then just put it through cheesecloth when you're at the liquid stage. Well, thanks for joining us, and we hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you on the next one.